Welcome to today's episode. Today we're gonna learn how to make the flawless skin using the frequency separation technique in Photoshop, and that is very easy and quick. Though this frequency separation may sound very technical and very complicated, but in fact it is not actually so, and that is what I'm going to show you today. So let's get started.
harshvardhanart.com. Unleash the creative in you.
Alright, let's get to it. What is frequency separation? Frequency separation is simply separating the image data into two parts, low frequency and the high frequency. Low frequency contains the face structure and skin colors and skin tones, etc. And high frequency contains the fine details and the skin texture, skin pores, etc. So we're gonna divide the image into two layers, and then on these two different layers we'll be having different image data, and that would give us the flawless skin which you might have seen in fashion photography and fashion portraitures and other beauty magazines, where the skin is so flawless. Though it might seem very intimidating at the first, but once you get to it, it's very easy and simple, and I'm going to show you very easy and the fastest way to do that. So let's get to it. In order to create frequency separation, we need to have two different layers of this image. So let's create two different layers of this image by pressing Ctrl J or Command J on your keyboard. You can even create duplicate copy of it by right clicking with your mouse and selecting duplicate layer. And here you can rename it as whatever you want and press OK, and it will create a duplicate copy of it. There is another way to create a duplicate copy of it. If you right click and select duplicate layer, and if you want this layer to be duplicated in a new document or a separate document, you can choose it from here. If you have other document which is at the moment open in the Photoshop, that would be shown over here. Otherwise, you can simply select new and you can rename that document whatever you want and press OK, and that way you will see that it has created this duplicate copy of this layer into a new separate document. Okay, so we don't want that, so I'm going to close that, choose no, and let me show you another way to create the duplicate copy of it, and that is by clicking and dragging this layer onto this page like icon, which is basically a new layer icon. So that way you can create a duplicate copy of any layer. Okay, so let me press Ctrl Z to undo that, since I have already created two layers. So the first one we are going to rename as low. Here we'll be having all our low frequency data, and the second one would be the high. Okay, sorry. So here we'll be having our high frequency data. So for a moment, let's turn off the high layer and select the low frequency layer, and just go to the filter, choose blur and choose Gaussian blur. And here you have to be very careful. Here you have to take the radius where you don't see the skin texture. Okay, and you have to be careful that you don't choose a radius way too large or way too low, because both will not give you the pleasant result. So our aim is basically to separate the low frequency data from this image, and that low frequency data is this structure of the face and skin tones and the colors, etc. So we'll choose a radius of around, for this image, maybe 3.7. that is good. 3.4, that depends on the image to image. So you select according to your image, and if you are using this image, you can do that also. If you have downloaded that from the exercise files, that you can download from the link in the description section below. Okay, so press OK. Now on this layer we have our low frequency data. Okay, and now let's select the high frequency layer and turn it on. And now let's go to the image and select apply image, and on this top down menu Source is the frequency separation project, that is the main name of our document. And second, layer. Here we have to choose the layer which has our low frequency data. So from this layers we can select low because that is our low frequency layer. Okay, leave the channel to RGB, and from this blending option drop down menu select the subtract. Why we are choosing subtract? Because we are telling Photoshop that take the image data of the low layer or the low frequency layer and subtract that data from that layer and give us the rest of the data, that is the high frequency data. Okay, and leave the opacity to 100% and choose the scale to 2 and offset to 128. That is the fixed amount that works every time. Okay, and now you can press OK, and now you can see that this is somewhat similar to high pass filter, and yes, actually it is a high pass filter. So you can do that also with the high pass filter, but there you have to do the manually, and manually you may not get the appropriate or the pleasing result. That is why we are taking the automatic route. We are instead commanding the Photoshop to do the math for us and subtract the data of the low frequency from this layer and give us the result of the high frequency data. So now we have both the layers. Okay, now let's change this layer blending mode to overlay. Okay, or you can choose the linear light if you want more hard results. Okay, so that way all the details would be preserved. Okay, and now select both the layers by pressing Shift and select both the layers, and by pressing Ctrl Z you can group them together and call them skin. This is what I rename them. Or you can do that one more way. You can select both these layers and click and drop it over this folder icon, and that way it would create a group of these two layers. Alright, and now our frequency separation layers are created.